Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Julie Stitzel. I head policy for Digital Currency Group, and I'm also a proud board member of the Blockchain Association. And I have the best gig of this summit. I get to moderate a discussion between these two Senate titans who need no introduction, but I will do so anyway. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from the great state of New York and Senator Cynthia Lummis from the great state of Wyoming. Thank you two for being here. So we had a wonderful day yesterday, and one of the panels included staffers from Senate Agriculture Committee and the Senate Banking Committee. And they gave us their state of play on market structure. And I think it's very much in flux. There's a lot of ongoing activity. One of the key takeaways I think we got from that panel was they're all very tired. It's been a long couple of months. So I wanted to start with market structure because this morning Politico actually reported that there was a meeting with Senate Dems yesterday on market structure. So given how closely you two are to those negotiations and what's happening with the bill, can you give us your take on where we are, what's holding up the bill, where are some barriers that we need to get past, and how might we do that, and what's the timeline look like moving forward?
So I would say nothing is holding up this bill.
Great.
We are negotiating in good faith, very constantly. The staff worked all weekend together. We had our first bipartisan meeting last week, which went very, very well. We talked about a number of issues that were really issues of first impression, and all the members had to think about, like, what do I want to do on that issue? So there's still things that we haven't decided what is the right place to come down. But the good news is we're working through each of the issues. And so the Democrats met last night. We gave the Republican staff all of our asks for the last final amount of things that we're hoping to get in the bill. We delivered that set of asks to them last night. And then Cynthia and I and some others are going to meet today, go through some of them. And I'm just very optimistic that this product is going to be so strong when we are finished, because even the House didn't tackle all the issues that we're tackling in this draft. For example, they didn't even address decentralized finance exchanges. We are coming up with good bipartisan solutions for that specifically. And how do you deal with illicit finance or terrorism financing, like these very hard, knotty issues? They didn't get that far. And so we've been able in our draft to take all the work Cynthia and I did for the last 3 years and then build upon that. And so I'm feeling very optimistic that the final product will be strong and we'll have the best regulatory framework in all jurisdictions worldwide.
Decentralized finance, DeFi, AML, are there other issues that you're able to share?
Sure. So the one issue that Cynthia and I have been working on that that's different from our first draft. So in our first draft, we created a notion that you were either a security, a digital security, or you were a digital commodity, and there'd be some measure of things in between, and we'd have a committee that would assess those and analyze them, and it would just be, a small group of people, a small group of business models, a small group of digital assets. Over time, since this was first written 3-4 years ago, we've seen that actually, in fact, most network tokens are not securities and not commodities because they have indicia of both. So for example, most network tokens are offered for sale like a security to raise money for their company, for their idea, for their token. And there's still a board, there's still a CEO, there's still some centralized management. The value of that token still derives value from who those people are and how smart they are and how capable are and what their vision is. And over time, their goal is to become a commodity. Their goal is to be fully decentralized and fully fungible. But it may take them 1, 2, 3, 4, it could take 10 years, we don't know. And what I realized over the last 3 or 4 years, why should we make them be one thing or the other? Let them be what they want to be. Let us regulate their business model based on their function and what they're doing, and write regulation that meets their needs as opposed to forcing them by label to get in one category or the other because that's existing law. we're a legislative body. We write new laws. And my theory is that this ecosystem is so different. It's just not securities and it's not commodities. And even though your ambition is to become a commodity, while you still have a board, while you still have a CEO, while your reputation is still relevant to the value of that token, just own that, and it's fine. Like, you can be that and not be forced into securities law.
And I really do want to compliment you on sort of coming up with that idea, because when we began 4 years ago,
Yeah, 4.
Together, we've been working together on this for 4 years. We share staffs, we share
Birthdays.
we share a lot of time together. But this industry has evolved and changed and morphed during the 4 years that we've been working on this. So one of the great things about the misery we've endured to have this thing go on this long is that it has allowed us to take that very first initial draft that we did of Lummis Gillibrand and make adjustments to it as the industry itself changed and helped inform the debate. So one of the challenging things here now that we're nearing markup is to make sure that the Democrats and the Republicans can come to compromises that are very acceptable to the industry and to the White House. So while the Democrats and the Republicans are negotiating, we're also working with industry and with the White House. So it's a little bit of, three-dimensional chess.
Do you have a sense of the timeline for the markup?
Well, I still want to do it next week.
Okay.
And part of it's because our staffs are exhausted.
Which they all said yesterday.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's true. And I think that we're to the point where it's better to go ahead with a product and mark it up next week, and then give everybody a break over the Christmas break to catch their breath. And we've been engaging hours on end. And it's just time to take a draft. A couple of things that I can sense are happening. Industry's getting a little concerned about what's happening behind closed doors between Democrats and Republicans. They're ready to see a draft. Our staffs are exhausted. I'm worried that tempers are going to flare. And it's just time to reveal a product. For example, Senator John Kennedy, who's been a little nervous about all this, he genuinely just wants to see the bill. But it's changed so much every few days during the course of these negotiations that there was never anything that was solid enough that we could share. So my goal, knock on wood, is to share a draft at the end of this week that is our best efforts to date, and let industry vet it, let Republicans and Democrats vet it, and then go to markup next week.
And that's great to hear. You're with a room full of industry leaders and innovators, so I know we're all looking forward to seeing the draft and appreciate all the work that you've put into it.
And may I add something there?
Sure.
So you're going to have a challenge next week. So because you're going to be under a tight timeline to read it and vet it and make your suggestions and get us your feedback. Because now we are at prime time now. We're in the last 2 weeks. And so...
Yeah, there are less than 10 legislative days for the rest of the year, I think.
That's correct. And so please set aside a swath of time when you see a draft come out later this week to really, really comb through it, because we're ready to roll with markup.
We're leaving the first panel of the day already with a homework assignment, so that's great. So I want to pull on a thread, the thread of misery that you mentioned around that you have been partners in this space for 4 years. You've I think Bill actually, and your staff, Senator Gillibrand, yesterday described it as you were both on an island when you first started. And you've endured market volatility, working with colleagues who maybe don't understand the technology, and also just reputationally as well. How important has your partnership been through the past 4 years? And why is it so important that this space, digital assets, crypto, remain nonpartisan?
Well, I think our partnership has been invaluable. Both Cynthia and I have an excitement about this industry. We're very excited about innovation. We like the opportunities that it's going to create for the U.S. economy, to strengthen the dollar, to create access to capital for communities that don't have access to capital, that it will democratize finance for many, many people. There's still 30% of Americans who are unbanked or underbanked, and disproportionately that community is finding that cryptocurrency and blockchain is where they can go to get support, banking, and the facility that they need to use and send value. It's been wonderful to have Cynthia, because we both share this excitement, we both share this vision. We agree on pretty much almost everything that we've debated. What I love about working with Cynthia is that I can pick her brain. I can say, well, what do you want to do about this? Like, this is the scenario I'm worried about. What's the best way to address this? And she always has a thoughtful response, and we've come up with good solutions because of that energy between us and because of the good chemistry we have. And I think in this place of Washington, where division is, the daily story, nobody wants to write about bipartisanship, right. But we have been focused on bringing these ideas together, bringing coalitions in both of our parties together to debate an industry and to debate technology that needs regulation. And I felt very called to it. I don't know about you, Cynthia, but I felt just this has been such a wonderful opportunity to partner with you.
And I couldn't agree more. Kirsten is knowledgeable and innovative. The one difference between us is that she thinks and talks at the speed of an Easterner, and I think and talk at the speed of a Westerner, and so we have to adjust to each other's pace. But other than that, I think we've really come across something that is going to be embraced by the industry. And I want to remind you all of this. Now think back. Other than laws that were passed after the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, there have been no innovations in the financial services industry law until you have to go back into the last century to find those innovations. This is the stablecoin bill was the first bill that came out of the Senate Banking Committee in 8 years. And so where we started together was, shall we try to create a structure that uses the SEC, CFTC as their basic regulatory agencies, or should we create an entire new agency for digital assets only? That's how rudimentary this was when we started 4 years ago. And where we have come now 4 years later is, yes, using the existing regulatory structure, but acknowledging, as Kirsten said earlier, that there are a myriad of assets within this industry that are neither a security nor a commodity, and that they need special treatment. And that's where I really want to compliment Senator Gillibrand, because her innovation in that arena has helped us land on something that is important.
Yeah, that is important. And you're both tackling, I've observed, challenges within your respective parties as well. So Senator Gillibrand, you're a leader on this issue, you're a leader of the Democratic Party, but some of the loudest voices or critics of this space are Democrats. And so when you think about the education and the time that you've put in with your Democratic colleagues, and you consider what we saw in the election in 2024, are you worried at all that if we're not able to bring enough Democrats to the table, that they'll be painted as anti-innovation?
I don't think so. I think that our opportunity in this bill is to build more consensus. And one of the challenges that we have in general is this is new technology, a new industry, and not every Senate office has a banking staffer or a commodity staffer. And so there's not necessarily someone in that team who understands this and wants to learn it in depth and explain it to their boss. So we still suffer from lots of people not knowing in great detail about it. So one of the things I'm hoping is that when we do socialize a bipartisan draft, that we can take time with our colleagues to explain what our thinking is, why we have it. Certainly Cynthia needs to do that on the Republican side. I will definitely need to do it on the Democratic side. But we all come at this from different areas of passion. I mean, the Democrats really want to see some ethics language included, some fairness in quorum. They want to see some protections, consumer protections that are lasting and apply across the board. Those are their areas of real interest and excitement. And so they're writing a lot of new language and new ideas around that because that's what they want to bring to the table. And what's been so great about our working group is both sides have things to contribute and both sides are open to those contributions. And that's why the bill, I think, will be stronger. And I think Democrats in general will see the work product of what we've put in our areas of interest that weren't in the House bill. Because they didn't have enough time in the House to really bring the Democrat negotiators to come up with their contributions. It was really while the bill was bipartisan, it was largely drafted just by the Republicans. So it didn't have the same bipartisan energy that I think this bill is going to have.
And since you brought up ethics, Senator Lummis, I think that's kind of a sticking point for you because you've got, while the House passed clarity with overwhelming, I think 78 Democrats were voting for it, it's a different dynamic in the Senate. You need at least 7 Democrats, and the ethics piece is super important to the Dems. So when you recognize the need for at least 7 Dems, probably a couple more, in the vote, how are you squaring potential tensions around the ethics language within the Republican conversation?
And there are tensions. So there's a couple things. Ruben Gallego and I negotiated language on ethics, sent it to the White House. The White House kicked it back and said, you can do better than this. So it was unacceptable to the White House. So my intention is to sit down with Bill and Kirsten and Chris and Cynthia and take another run at it. I may be put in a position to try to cajole the White House and persuade them on a couple things. One is ethics language that we work on that's a rework, but that is still respectful of, the Democrats' concerns here. And the other one is that there right now are no Democrat nominees to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission that have been put forward, and I think the SEC as well, right? So anyway, I'm going to need to go to the White House and say, we need to do this, as a show of good faith to the other party, that there will be a complement of regulators whose nominations will be advanced in order to help Democrats just have confidence in what we're doing. So those are 2 areas where I'm going to be talking to our friends at the White House.
So let's assume a world where market structure passes. We're already hearing rumblings of conversations and efforts around tax. Can you talk a little bit about how? Clearly our tax code needs modernization, needs to fit this world that includes digital assets. Senator Lummis, you have a bill and you've introduced a bill on this. Can you talk a little bit about that? And is that sort of on deck once you get market structure across the finish line?
Absolutely, it's on deck. So we had put together a comprehensive tax package for digital assets, given it to Senator Crapo during the One Big Beautiful Bill. It got left on the cutting room floor before July 4th. But it was a good package. So Senate Finance had a hearing on that, added a 10th provision to the 9 that we proposed. Theirs was on international law and tax, which is a good positive measure. And Jason Smith, House Ways and Means, has also embraced this. So one of the good things about moving market structure first is it's nice to have a definition of what these assets are before you figure out the tax law surrounding those exact definitions. So I think we're moving in the right order. And the de minimis provisions, for example, are consistent with other assets. And we have tried as much as we can to create a level playing field tax-wise between existing assets and digital assets. So I think that will happen in 2026. So by the time this Congress ends, you and I can do a high five, I hope.
Totally.
Thank you so much for being here today.